let's discuss some liquid cooling components because we got a few here. Welcome back to Simple Rud. Figured I'd take an episode and just discuss components, right? Now what you see in front of you is a mess. On top of being a mess, it's a lot of money, right? So figured I'd give you a bit of an insight into why I bought what I bought. Some of it was, purely cosmetic within reason. But, it's also balancing budget, performance. Um, I'm very big on brand loyalty, but I'm trying to work on that, right? I want to make sure that I'm not so stuck on a brand that when something better comes along, that I'm not looking into that and I'm not testing that out, right? It's kind of more of what I do in everyday life, not just computer building. Now, what you see in front of you is a decent amount of EK, but it's not all EK, right? Um, and there's reason for that. Before I kick into everything, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment down below on what do you think, or what's your favorite liquid cooling brand? Do you have one? And is this pretty lined up with what you would do? And if not, hell, tell me that too. There's so much I don't even know where to start. So I'm going to start with the simplistics, the carryovers, right? So this reservoir is from my first custom loop, which was Wayne Tower. Now, I really liked the look of this, and I really liked it on top of the tower. So I kind of started there with the reservoir, right? And I was only going to go one reservoir, and I had the old D5 for it as well. And I was like, man, I really want dual pumps. And that turned into, what I haven't seen done in a Mod 5, a dual loop. So that is where I got this. Now I did actually already have both of these on hand because I was switching sizes, right? You've got the 200 and the 150. So I was planning a build around these either way. And for some reason I was like, well, I already have the parts, so why spend a ton of extra money? And I don't really need to, right? And when you're looking at the case, this fits a lot better than this would. This would just be, too much one way or the other when you put it down here. It's either going to stick out way or it's going to collide with the fans, neither of which are good. Now, the old D5 pump had Molex. One thing I did not want to put on this build was Molex, so I bought two new D5 pumps. That's where you kind of get the, maybe that didn't fully make sense, but in my head it did. And all the EK stuff you see in front of you, I got on sale. I bought it during their Black Friday-ish, which was a reasonable sale. I say that because I follow EK quite frequently, and I do think for the most part their stuff is overpriced. If not for on sale, you probably wouldn't see this much EK. But we'll get into that as we go through each part. Little sneak peek, I did do a Spartan Shield for Odyssey, right? Trying to get as much Assassin's Creed games into this one build as possible. But there we are with that. And at the time, I don't know how well you can see it, probably not at all. You can see this though. The RGB strip in there, I could not find them for Heat Killer. They were just always sold out for the ARGB. But the EK one is the right size, did fit. They were still pretty cheap. They're like $6 or something. So I ordered two of those. So that'll be nice, right? And especially because the CPU block is also going to be an EK light, and hopefully it goes well with the EK GPU block as well. So that's where we are with the reservoirs. Now, this is still my favorite reservoir. Like, I would use this in every build because I like the look of it. The squared out, the anodized aluminum, it's really clean. So on to the next. Radiators, right? So now I plan on running the 14900K, and I got a 4090. I don't think I've announced that yet. I got a 4090 for the build. I got the Tough at MSRP, and it was cheap enough that I didn't want to pass it up. Back to the radiators. Now, I got Corsair for, well, two main reasons. One, they're just rebranded Hardware Labs, which I love Hardware Labs radiators. Now, two, they're the rebrand of the Hardware Labs L series. So if you don't know what that is, that means that this being a 120 rad means the rad is actually 120 wide. Normally when you get a radiator, it's actually wider than 120. Right? I think they are like 132 or something weird like that. And I'm sure it's going to vary across brands, but these are 120. So I always kind of stick with those because they are for sure to fit in places that some radiators might not fit. Now with running the 14900K and the 4090, there's going to be a lot of heat. So I got two thick boy 360s and one slimish 240. Now by slimish it is 30 millimeters and these are 54 millimeters. This case was not designed for any of that. I think it was actually designed like this would fit just fine up here. The other two radiators I think might fit without push or pull. You'd have to get a little creative, right? Because the bottom of the case wasn't designed to have the radiator on top. It has to go below. And then you could probably do the thick boy with fans, but they wouldn't be 30 mil fans and you wouldn't have much room for air. That's why I put custom feet on them. I'm going away from liquid cooling parts. But that is the main reason for that. And they're also reasonably cheap. I think I paid $100 for these 360s and $80 for the 240, which if you're looking at radiators, that's really cheap. That's hard to pass up. If they have the same cooling performance as the more expensive one, they fit better, they are more compatible, right? Then it's kind of a no-brainer to buy those. And the look is reasonable. Now, no, it's not as pretty as the new EKs, but it's almost half the price. So, fittings. As you can see, they're all EK. Now, the main reason for this one is, well, cosmetics and price, right? They are probably my favorite looking fittings. They're super clean. Now, with the EK sale, it actually made sense because they were cheaper than most fittings. My last build, I went with Bisky because they were cheaper. But now they're not cheaper. A lot of these liquid cooling components have come up in price, and in some cases, EK is not that absurd anymore. Even though I still feel like it's all absurd. It's very expensive. But that was the main reason for the fittings. That and the fact that I went with EK's soft tubing. I went with the 1612 to match the 16 on the hard tubing. This go round I'm trying acrylic just because I've never done it. There's a good chance that I'm going to hate it and end up buying a whole lot of PETG. Now a lot of people are going to say don't use PETG because overheating. If your system is getting that hot that you're warping PETG, you have another issue you need to figure out. Plain and simple. I don't think anywhere on this system should be getting that hot. Right? So that's what we did with fittings. And although you don't have to, it's not a terrible idea to have the fittings matched with the tube manufacturer, right? So I've never really done that. So this will be the first time I try that, actually. My first go around, I had Prima Chill tubing, and man, no, maybe I did go Prima Chill fittings too because of the purple. So, okay, this is my second build. When I did the Vader build, those did not match. It was Corsair tubing and Bisky fittings, which may or may not be the same manufacturer. I didn't do a whole lot of research. A lot of times I just check out Reddit and then kind of go with my gut feeling. I'm sure that makes you super confident in what I'm saying. But you don't learn without doing, and this is me doing. Now, the only exception was the plugs. I went XSPC plugs because there's no logo on them. They're just black, right? EK loves to put their logo on everything. I don't want a million EK logos, right? There's already going to be one on the CPU block. I covered the two on these. Right? I don't need it on every single stopper. right? Because there's going to be a decent amount, about 10, because I need multiple on each of these and some on this and some here and there. Now for coolant, you see, I went with EK Cryofuel. Now, my first build, I used the acid green version. I ran it for like 2 years, right? Way longer than you should be. But it didn't gunk up anything, and it didn't leave any staining or residue. Right, when I tore that apart, I cleaned all the parts out of it, but there was no staining. Now, when I went and switched, right, I went from EK in my Wayne Tower to Mayhem's in my Vader build. And within like 2 weeks, the Mayhem stuff already started staining my blocks and my tubes. I don't like it. I'm gonna have to clean the hell out of that build as soon as this build goes live. So, you know, that's one of those things to where you go on Reddit and you're gonna see mixed reviews. You kind of gotta take a shot at it. And with that, I tested it out. I didn't like it. Now there's a chance that I am one of the unlucky few. There are people who hate EK's coolant because, you know, it stains on them and it plugs. That was not my experience. Hopefully it's not my experience this time, but it can happen, right? So keep an eye out for that, but try it. This is what I'm recommending because this is what I use until I have issues. So haven't had that so far. Now you're probably wondering why I got blue coolant for an Assassin's Creed build, and we'll go over that later. Now fans, right? Fans was a difficult decision because I didn't really care too much about having everything RGB on the fans, right? Like that was the least of my worries. I wanted something that linked together so I don't have a ton of wires, and I wanted something with high performance. That's why I went with the Unifan P28s. Now, when I got these, they were their best performing fan. And you know, it's probably because they're not all RGB'd out, so you don't have to focus on the prettiness, even though these fans are really pretty. They also link together, and they come with a little controller that allows you to set 3 different performance settings, which I'm excited about because my main goal on this is not only that it will sufficiently cool my 14900 and my 4090, but I can do it quietly, right? That's probably going to take some fine tuning when I get to that point. But the nice thing is with that controller, I can just set it to 1300 to max out, right? So on your fan curve, that'll be the max, which shouldn't be that loud, right? As long as it doesn't have a weird hum. None of these fans have any mesh or any grills or anything like that. So I'm hoping that cuts down on any type of weird turbulence sound. We'll see. Now, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to go with the T30s from Noctua because those things are legit. However, 14 fans. I did not want 14 separate cables, even if they're into Ys and all of that. Like, no. Fantex, take those T30s, make them connectable, and I'll buy them forever. Probably. Now, I know they've got the D30, and I did really look at those for a while, but I don't think their performance was on par. And these bad boys were $50 for 3. It's hard to beat. Single Noctua fan's like $26. And when you get into the better Uni fans, like their new LCD ones, they're like $150 for 3 fans. Now, don't be afraid to ask questions down below either. You know, it's possible I'm not elaborating enough information on why I did all of these things, even though I'm trying to, right? Going chunk by chunk. So feel free to ask questions. I will do my best to answer them. So we covered tubing, fittings, radiators, blocks, waters, fans, sorry, not blocks, reservoirs. So really all that's left is blocks, right? So one of the things I was really excited about is direct die cooling because I love potentially throwing away a $600 CPU. No, but really I've been wanting to try this forever, right? Because it's kind of your next step in extreme building and extreme cooling, direct die. So as soon as EK put these out, I was sold. Now I looked elsewhere to try and find anything Intel direct die, and I really didn't have luck. And if I did, it wasn't as pretty as these CPU blocks. Sorry, man, EK does have the best looking blocks. Now, when this block first came out, there were issues. So that is something I'm going to keep tabs on my testing, right? So this should be a much newer revision. Shouldn't run into any of those issues, from what I can tell. Now, I won't know for sure until I've got the build together and I'm testing out the cooling. Now, the one thing I did do is I upgraded to Conductonauts Extreme, right? Thermal Grizzly's Conductonaut Extreme. So this should help it cool a little bit better, right? So the 14900K, like the 13900K, they run hot, right? You have the potential of like 300 watts, which is dumb. So there are ways to kind of, undervolts and stuff like that. So you can always undervolt and stuff like that to get better cooling, and I plan on testing that. And one thing I want to do with this build is overclock, right? Why spend all of this money to not overclock? So with that, I figured if Conductonaut Extreme can get me, even just 2 degrees cooler, then that's 2 degrees gain. Now it was like 20 bucks extra, so it's here or there. Probably wasn't necessary, but I'm already so far into it. Why not, right? Why not? Now, of course, a lot of EK. Not much heat killer, but I did go with the heat killer GPU block. One, pretty much everybody said that it performs better than EKs. 2, it looks better than EKs. And 3, it doesn't have the ports sticking way out in the front, right? They're not out here, they're on the block. So part of that allows me to get a little creative on my tube runs, right? Originally I designed it to go straight down, and I do like that idea, but I think getting a little creative will look a little better. So why not? Now the one nice thing about doing any of these water blocks is how much it shrinks down that damn 4090. The 4090 is like that long. It's here to here, it's long, right? No, it's definitely longer. This cuts out pretty much a whole fan size. A whole fan. So that'll be nice as well, right? Because, oh man, 4090's got so much cooling for probably good reason. When you can run up to 450 watts. So that's where dissipating this should be interesting. I've got one 360 for the 14900, and I've got a 360 and a 240 for the 4090. Worst comes to worst, I find out how to link the loops up, but I really don't want to do that. I'd like to keep them separate because, well, it should make it easier to change things out. Now, originally I did that because I was going to run my 2080 knowing that eventually I would upgrade to the 4090, right? I've been tracking the 4090 price for like a year and watching stock and trying to get something. And it has not been that easy. So when I found one, I instantly jumped on it, which means, well, my dual loop has less of a purpose now because the chances of upgrading the 4090 on this build, it's not going to happen, right? It doesn't make sense. I'm going to do what I always do, and I'm going to run this for 3 to 5 years, and then I'm going to spend another, who knows how much at that time on that build. Because this one is already twice the price of Wayne Tower. And Wayne Tower had the top at its time too, so it's really crazy how much price changes in the matter of 3 years. But here we are. Now, I think I covered everything on here. Hopefully it all made sense. Felt like I was rambling, but there was a lot to cover. And, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment down below. Let me know what you think. And again, feel free to ask questions. I got no problem answering them to the best of my ability. And at the very least, giving you my reasoning. Maybe we can learn something together. And that, I think, wraps up everything. So I'll see you next time.